welcome to the Quadcast. We're your hosts, Braden and Cole Ertl, and we're here today with Chris Clark and Ethan Schro. They are the two technical directors for the musicals here at Alden High School, and we wanted to interview them because we see them as mentors in stage crew and just in life, and we wanted to ask them some questions. Braden, if you'd like to start.
Okay, we'll start off with the first question.
Braden's just going to crack up at every opportunity at this point.
Oh, yeah, but
I don't know if people are going to know the voices by the, hi.
Hello. That's Chris.
That's Ethan, and I'm Chris.
There we go.
We'll start off with the first question. What got you into technical theater?
So to jump back to the Joseph story, I was called in by Matt Mashi to look at one thing with the light board. There was supposed to be one thing. Help me fix this. And then that just ever since I've been stuck here.
I mean, it's hard to say, specifically technical theater. So when I've been doing theater, I don't know, it feels like forever between even just before middle school here. So I was actually in 5th grade, I was in the high school production of Children of Eden, and then was involved in the middle school and high school shows. And throughout that entire time, I was also doing community theater over at Axe. So throughout that entire experience, I always had a toe in both worlds, performing on the stage, but also doing a lot of the technical stuff. Back with my friend Jeremy Kroll in middle school, and then getting into high school, I would help out once in a while with technical stuff. But I think I got more involved with technical theater in my time at Darien Lake. That's when I really started to become more well-versed, I would say. And you were still in for that. And I'm pretty sure my first year as a tech, you were still in entertainment, because I remember that was when I first got a smartphone. So there was that. And Chris had a smartphone, and so I would bother him with questions about that smartphone.
That was the year we had all the different,
show.
We had all sorts of different shows. So we programmed like 6 different shows that summer, which is unusual for us. Way back when I was a wee little, 7th grader, I think was when they allowed us to start. That was, my sister was in a community theater sort of program.
Okay.
Fun fact, I was also in a production of Joseph at one point, not here at Alden.
Okay, I guess this is a fun one too. Was there any time during a production when something went like super terribly wrong, and then how did you fix it?
I mean, there are so many times. It's almost not a production if something doesn't go wrong.
Yeah.
Yes.
One in particular here would probably, like the first one that comes to mind here would be when we tore the scrim in Newsies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember where exactly. We were towards the end of the show, but it still had to be used for 2 or 3 scenes after that. But it got caught on a set piece when they were erasing it and ripped the top probably about a third of the way down.
Yep.
So that was just hanging. So we had to scramble. First of all, I had to calm Matt down because Mashi was
excited.
Yeah, that's a word. But then we had to scramble to readjust the last couple scenes where it was supposed to be used. There's not going to be a scram. We had to shut off the projectors, things like that, so that we could work around it.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the beauty of live theater, though, right? Is the ability of the cast and crew to experience whatever goes wrong and then still find a way to put on a production.
Like I said, I can think of others, but
yeah, there's always like little things.
Yeah, show stopping is very rare.
So going back to my performance in Children of Eden, that was in 2005. And the first song starts, and there was a chorus on either side of the stage, and they were using fog. And this was before, long before we had the bypass for the fire system. So we got, 3 or 4 minutes in, and the fire alarm goes off, and that's when you just can't recover from it.
Okay, is it time for the deep question? Okay, we'll ask a deep question, then we're going to ask yet another favorite, and then we're going to... Okay. How do you recover from failures in theater or in life?
I mean, the same...
Yeah.
overall aspect, but it depends on what you're considering or what you would consider a failure in theater. You know, we went over the worst case scenario of something catastrophic potentially happening during a show, and you do your best to work around that. If you can't, then you obviously have to make the best of it, and however you can, restarting or whatever. You just, even in like programming, sometimes you get so tracked into things that you start to look past what's actually happening. And so you can end up beating yourself up over trying to get something to work right. And you have to recognize that's happening. And then you have to be able to take that step back and just regroup, take a break, whatever, come back to it. So I've gotten to 1, 2 a.m. here some nights and just, I have to go home. I'll come back to it tomorrow and figure it out. Yeah. Sometimes I go home and I go right to sleep. Sometimes I'll research if it's a programming issue that I'm not understanding the board, I'll research that sometimes. But
stew on it until 4 a.m.
That's taking a step back, and it's recognizing where the problem is and what, figuring out different options for what you can do.
Yeah, I think keep on saying take a step back. I very much agree, both sure for theater, but life in general more. And part of that, I think, is keeping perspective. Right. The reality is there are so many things that in the moment feel critically important. But the reality is when you take a step back and get your perspective, you realize that, okay, you know what, if this project doesn't happen on time, if I get this failing grade on this test, whatever it might be, is it actually going to impact me in the long run? From personal experience, I can almost always say no. Right? You can learn from it, you can recover, you can go do things. And I think keeping that perspective is important, because if you get too hung up on something, number one, you can fail before you even begin, right? You can become so engrossed with this fear of failure that it can be what causes the failure. And then number two, if you fail at something and you're hung up on something that happened in the past, it's going to continue to be a problem for you going forward. So I think a lot of it is just taking that perspective, understanding that doesn't define you. Everyone has bad days. Everyone has things that they wish they could do better. And the thing is, you can, right? Do it better next time.
Some of that, too, is recognizing that you might have to take multiple steps back. You take in that perspective, and if you aren't finding a solution or whatever the case is, sometimes you have to step back a second time or third time even, and just You need to get the bigger picture, and the bigger it gets, the more things will come into perspective as far as, is this really a failure, or is this just a bump in the road?
As the fog billowed across the stage for the final time, I started to think about everything I had accomplished in the theater program. Over 6 productions, 136 rehearsals, and countless hours spent in the booth, I had learned more about myself than I thought possible. As the lights dimmed to black and I called the final scene change, Chris got on the headset and said a single sentence, simultaneously simple and infinite in meaning. Thank you for 3 great years of scene changes. My emotions as the cast took their final bow and my time in the theater department came to an end are indescribable. I left the booth, and amid the clamor that comes with the end of the show, the seniors found each other and impulsively decided to take a final bow ourselves. I stood on stage for the first time and took my first and last bow, and as the playoff music started in the background, we all group hugged. I will remember that night for the rest of my life. We've also been asking you about way too many favorite things. Yeah. Unless you want to comment on that.
On the favorite set piece?
Yeah.
That's easy.
Oh, okay. So what was your favorite set piece ever?
The gate from Shrek.
Oh, I thought you were about to say from Wizard of Oz.
No, that may be one of my least favorite set pieces.
The portcullis?
Yes, the portcullis.
That then hung above the stage for 3 shows after and never got used again.
The greatest thing ever. It was like a threat, right? Hanging up there like we're going to drop it on somebody if everyone's stepping out of line.
I would say my favorite overall set was probably Newsies.
Do you want to comment on?
But Adams was a close second.
Oh yeah, Adams was banging.
I love the Adams set so much.
I also liked. I wouldn't call this a set piece, but I liked the wall of incandescent light bulbs that we used for Our Town.
Oh yeah, that was a good
pretty
one.
hype.
Yeah,
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, when I learned how to use it, I was like, wait, this is pretty cool.
Wow.
Wise words.
Wow. Jinx. Or even this year with Emerald City was fun.
Yeah.
Yellow Brick Road all lit up. You got the EC in the middle.
From a lighting perspective, this was one of my favorite shows to do because we just got to do so many things that weren't, like we got to add things that weren't just sitting there waiting to be used. And that was really fun for me because it was like a new dimension. I don't know. That makes zero sense.
No,
but
it makes sense. The final crew strike was one that I'll remember forever. We arrived to find a stage cluttered with memories of our time spent there, awash in the colored light of the auditorium. In the hours that followed, we painstakingly deconstructed the last few months of our lives, making sure to pull every nail and screw. As I worked, amid the bustle of the deconstruction, I realized how bittersweet these fleeting moments were. For the last time, I was surrounded by my best friends, who I had the privilege to meet over the course of the last 3 years, and the directors who had guided me in ways they'll never know. As the work died down for the final time, we were left with just the company of each other, simple, yet invaluable.
Okay, I guess we'll ask our last question then. What's one thing you think we should take away from our time in the theater program?
Life skills.
Yes.
That's, to me, the big thing. There are lots of people who will come through the program who will never do theater again. It's something that, they love to do. It was fun, but it's just not something that they have a distinct passion for. And that's fine, and that's great, but there's so much that you learn to do, right? Whether you are running a show, whether you're programming a show, whether you're building set pieces, whether you're hanging things, there's so much that you learn to do with your hands. There's so much critical thinking and logical thinking.
I couldn't say it better.
Cut. Bars. Thank you guys for coming. We very much appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.
It's been fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode.
We'll see you when we see you.
Stay Alpha Viz.